Well, good morning. I'm Newell Arnerich, Mayor of Danville, and this morning here we are meeting with Marty Breen, owner, proprietor of Forward Motion Sports here in Danville, California. And this podcast is about neighbors, student business owners, nonprofits, public servants who make our community a special place to live. Marty, a special welcome to you, because that last part about a special place to live, you have brought so much joy and engagement in our community. And we're going to talk a little bit about how did you end up in Danville? What was it that you said, and I believe this was probably your first business, so maybe you can share with us a little bit about your story, how you ended up in Danville.
Well, thank you, Newell. It's nice to be here. 35 years ago, my brother and I decided we wanted to start a retail business. We were doing triathlons, and we needed a place to find all the goods we needed. I'd never worked a day in my life in retail. And lo and behold, we did an Ironman triathlon. We said we want to start a store. We'll research the whole business. We'll save our money. We'll do our due diligence. A year from now, we'll open a store. Well, we owned a store a month later.
That's pretty good.
And so from that, we went, I jumped right in, one employee for first 9 months. But we said, where are we going to be? We actually took over a store that had started. It wasn't open for very long as Forward Motion Sports. And we said, we need to be in a downtown location. So we searched. We grew up in Moraga. We weren't going to be in Moraga. We want to be somewhere else where we have some more retail and traffic. We looked in Orinda. We looked in Lafayette. We looked in Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill. We came south, Danville, hit Alamo. My brother was living in Alamo at the time. So we said, hey, Danville. Wow. We came downtown, went to Valley Medlands for breakfast. We went south. We went to San Ramon. We went down to Dublin, to Pleasanton. And we kept coming back to Danville. And the reason why was it was a downtown. It was an old downtown. You had a community there. And we liked the 2-lane street going through downtown, not 4 lanes with a center median, not a huge conglomerate, but a nice old downtown and a sense of community.
Wow. Now, that was about 1991, I think.
Correct.
That was an interesting time in Danville. I remember the vacancy rates were starting to climb. We were a year away from the first recession that we had, and that recession was 92 to 94, only in California. So that was a bold move, but nobody knew that was coming. And yet you opened a store that quickly, but you've been successful for 35 years. So maybe coming with, a pure business sense of this is what we need to do and accomplish might have been the best guide. But what kind of changes have you seen in that period of time? Because I remember East Prospect was all antiques. That was the little antique area. The internet really wasn't around yet. And there were a lot of things that had that wonderful look, but a lot of changes. Things need to be fixed up. What did you see over that first few years? What were the changes you saw? And did you make any pivot points, or how did you kind of get through all of that?
I would say a lot of inexperience. So I didn't know. So you fly by the seat of your pants and you say, what is the best thing to do? And so you think, how do I want to be treated? What kind of service do I want? And so I just did what I thought was right at the time. Our space was right there in downtown, right on Harts Avenue. We haven't moved far. We've only moved about 30 feet in 35 years on that. But it was then trying to create a sense of community within our store, inviting friends, starting our Wednesday night run, where you bring people every week back to the store, and it's a sense of spot where they can meet up, go, do things. So it was that community. And that little run started with 8 people and has morphed into 35, 45, 75 people, sometimes 100. Today it's on average about 35 to 40 people. But it's changed over the years quite a bit on that. But having that sense of community, bringing people to the store was the main idea. And here's a spot where you can meet, where you can go take off and do things. Afterwards, hey, go out, hit a restaurant, do some other stuff. Saturday mornings, go to the farmer's market after some nice runs. So there's always something to do.
Yeah, interesting over the years I've observed, as my kids grew up here, and we were looking, they both got into track, played soccer, but when it came to track, they needed shoes. And I remember the one thing I was impressed. I was used to be honest, the type of person, you go to a sporting goods store, you see all the shoes in the rack, you grab one, you get the right size, you try it, and you walk out. Either it fits or it doesn't. That was the end of the story. But I remember we were looking at shoes, and one of your sales team comes up and started looking and says, well, why don't you, so my daughter, why don't you walk back and forth? Let me observe. And talked about, and it took a few minutes and came up and says, well, here's what I would recommend. Here's a series of things. And the level of knowledge and the commitment, I learned more, and I wasn't even there to buy a pair of shoes, and I bought a pair because I didn't realize how important our feet are, and the fact that shoes, I think we all had a tendency to buy the way they looked, not how they performed. So that was a unique service. And was that just sort of the outgrowth of what you were starting to say, was just from your own personal experiences, or how did you evolve? Because you became an expert in that area.
Well, to really service the community, service what we're doing, we had to specialize too. We kind of deviated that. Triathlon isn't a specialty. There's three entities in it: swim, bike, run. Well, we wanted to be the best running store. We wanted to be the best bike shop, the best swim shop, and to do all that, it's hard to do. Over the years, we've had to focus. We're out of triathlon, and in a sense, we don't do bikes anymore, we don't do swim, and it comes down to the shoes and the footwear. So the running aspect, or the exercise, I call it the exercise aspect. Everybody wants to get out and do something. Well, we want you to have the best equipment to get out and stay healthy. And so that whole thing of having the best selection of shoes, going through, then having to teach you what's appropriate. Most people don't. They still come in today and want the look.
Right.
But we try to say is, hey, the look, we'll get you the look, but we really need to show you what's appropriate based on your foot structure, your body structure, what you're doing. And so that became our focus. We had some really good employees in my first days. This was their career. They wanted to do that. They've moved on to other bigger and better things in the same industry. But they helped start all that of having to build a shoe review online back in the early days. Hey, people would look at our shoes. How do you review all those shoes? Well, we have it right here. We have all the information. Let's communicate it to you. So that was the main thing, is being able to say all those things to the customer, inform you of what's appropriate, what's not. And we still do that today.
That's great. I was going to say the Steadfast, you are probably the only retail business that has been here that long. And you're right, within 30 feet, you got the opportunity to move into the new building, which was a new building. It's been there, 25 years or so. But you've seen a lot of changes. And as I started talking about before, East Prospect had an old post office. There was an electrical company, had a big service yard. Didn't look the same. And we all have a tendency to look at it now. The streets weren't quite the same as they are today. How do you think the environment has changed for retail, and how important is the location still? Is the location still important? Is it, if you're going to be in the retail business, particularly a service-oriented retail, is it better to be in a downtown environment like that, or what do you think those things have changed?
Well, go back to when we started. We didn't want to be in a shopping mall. I wanted to be somewhere where someone could pull up on the downtown street, pull up in front of your store.
Right.
They can still do that today.
Free parking.
Free parking. I don't want to be somewhere where there's a parking garage. I don't want to be where there's meters. And we wanted to be visible right there where people could walk. Walking downtown was very important. And so that part hasn't changed today. That is what is downtown Danville. People are walking and doing stuff. And keeping that pedestrian-friendly atmosphere helps our store. And today, I wouldn't change that. There's no way I want to be in the shopping center, I said. I want to be right there where the activity is. We shut down the streets for a car show. We're going to have one coming up. Hey, everybody's there. You see the people. You attract all those people. And when you have activities like that, it brings more people to town. And you just need to be visible. You're visible there. Right. And so being in the heart of downtown is very important. even on Harts Avenue versus right in the middle versus another location. That was the whole gist of when my brother and I kept looking at Danville. We actually were told not to open in Danville 35 years ago by some manufacturers. So we'll never open your account there because we have another business that's close by. And we said, sorry, we're going to do it anyways. And sure enough, we got those manufacturers to sell to us eventually on all that. But it was being in that spot of downtown and the community, which was so important to us.
Well, speaking of community, that's one of the areas I think how we met was that you got involved with the community. I mean, we're just selling things and providing a service. You were like part of the community, and I know you've helped start a few events. I'm working backwards, but the last one, you helped bring back the Devil Mountain Run. So tell us a little bit about it. How'd you get involved in those kinds of things?
Well, it was easy as a running event. We sell running shoes, so that part was easy. But we would host your packet pickups. We would host the race, so you drive people into it. So you want to do something like that all the time. The running event was easy. When Children's Hospital backed out of wanting to support the race, we had to find somebody else. And a good friend of mine came in, and he stepped up. That was Chris McCrary, and brought the race back. And he's turned it over now to another gentleman, and it's bringing all those people and having that support. But that's a town activity. People want to come here for that race. I remember before I ever opened the store, people talking about the Devil Mountain Run. And this is 40 years ago, over 40 years ago. And it was the highlight of people's season to be able to come out and do that race right through downtown. But it brings the community back, and you have to, as a retailer, I can't just take from everybody that comes in. I've got to be able to support the local activities, like our cross-country teams, our track and field teams at the local high schools. We support all the athletes in the school, so when they come in, we want to make sure we're taking care of them. So we participate in all those things with those schools and teams. But that's what brings back to us to get out in the community and do those things.
Right. Well, and I just want to compliment you. You have been a great community partner because all of those events ultimately help nonprofits, right? Devil Mountain Run, when they came back, even before when Children's Hospital, obviously that's an important nonprofit. But also one of the races, and this is probably the first time I came to the store, was you became a partner with Run for Education. It used to be Primos to Primos Run, then Run for Education. And you're right, all of the pickup, you stage all of that, help support all of that. How many years have you been doing that now?
Well, that was probably from day one.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
When we got into, it's a little, we still support it today, even though it's moved out of town a little more so back to, another town.
Right.
But you just got to stay in front of all those schools. And, those schools all walk into our store every day wanting, some kind of donation, some kind of support. The local schools put on their own races within the school.
That's right.
The big one that we just did last year, I was very impressed, was at Vista Grande, just right real close here to downtown. And the support, that was amazing. See the people, and they say, wow, can you help support us a little bit more? And I said, well, I'm sure we'll find something to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Along that line, and all of us, I own two companies, but my primary company, we were worried as COVID came along, what's it going to do to the world? What's it going to do to the economy? And it wasn't just being locked up in my business, but really concerned about what the future looked like. But you have a unique story that you actually sort of made a big pivot and came up with a model that worked. Maybe you can share us, what did you do? What were the steps? How did you actually reach out to your customers? Because I remember you were doing literally home delivery, as I recall.
As COVID hit, I remember we shut down. We had customers waiting for shoes that they had ordered from us. So, small staff said, hey, we got to stay here for the next 5 days or 4 days, and we got to fulfill those orders. UPS is going to deliver some trucks, packages to us. We got to get that done. We closed on that following Sunday, one day. And I went home and said, what are we going to do? I said, we'll run out of money in a month, 4 weeks. We got to do something. So we came up with, hey, we'll start promoting home delivery. We'll call us up. We're not on the internet in terms of sales. We're not delivering stuff. Hey, we'll just start calling customers. If they call us, we'll deliver it to them. And so we just started at home. We pivoted, started a home delivery with our store van, logoed that up, said need shoes. Give us a call and we'll come. And we had a staff that would drive out every day. And we started really slow, and it started building that we're selling shoes, all day long with people calling up. And we would hand deliver that stuff, put it on their doorstep with a nice bag and a note, and inside that bag was a fresh roll of toilet paper that was hard to come by at the time. And it made a lot of impressions to people.
Yeah. I was going to say it really did. People talked about that for a long time. And, as we came out of COVID, the first thing we could do was walk outside. That was it. You could walk. You had to wear a mask, and eventually got to. And I thought, boy, the first thing you're going to do, more people are walking than they're used to. Maybe I need a pair of shoes to support that. Did you see a change in business after that? Did it drop off dramatically? Did it come back? How did things go?
Well, with COVID, it dropped off quite a bit.
Right.
And it was just trying to survive and just make ends meet. We couldn't do it without the help of landlords helping reduce rent.
That's great.
Our manufacturers extending terms and credit to you on all kinds of stuff, because they said, hey, you're our business, we want to be in business. So that helped us quite a bit. We didn't really lay off any employees. People got
great.
timed down, but we brought them all back. And as COVID lifted, everybody wanted to be out. They also wanted the experience of going back into a store without having seeing people, seeing a firsthand experience of actually trying something on. But being out was the key. And so our traffic picked up quite a bit. 22 and 23, our business was up quite a bit.
That's great.
And that was from people wanting to be out, wanting to go back into a store and socialize. Hey, I don't want to just sit in my house. I don't want to be at home. I want to be outside. I want to be in what we do for outside activities is what the main business is we get people out to do stuff. And so we saw a big turn. So people really wanted to come back to retail and experience shopping, if that was it, or the service that people give versus something just that was online. Hey, I'm going to point and click and get something delivered to my house. But they wanted to have an experience. And that's what we've got to turn, even today, to. It's got to stay an experience.
It's interesting you mention all this, and you also specifically mentioned you're not on the internet, which is interesting. Retail as on a big scale, the Amazon model where everything's online. And yet you're the opposite of that and have been in business 35 years. We've seen people come and go, and people say, I'm all on the internet, and I'm doing this, I'm marketing that, and they're gone. Maybe you can, probably repeating some of the things, but sort of coalesce, why not on the internet? And how is it that you market? How do you, it's obviously you're doing events and things like that, but what is that sort of conscious step that you're doing that keeps you off the internet and keeps you in business?
Well, the key is long time, probably 25 years ago, we had a whole online business. And what we found that I had to spend a lot of money. What was I? Was I brick and mortar? Was I an internet business, online business? And we had to spend a lot of money to dedicate to that. And we started it, we tried it, and we said, hey, we'll build as we build up, I have a dedicated employee that'll start handling this, but they're going to work in the store also. They're going to handle the shipping, they're going to handle the ordering, they're going to build the website, they're going to do all those things. What I realized is I really needed some money to dedicate to this. And at the time, back 25 years ago, I said, I needed, $250,000 to say set aside to have inventory, pay for an employee to do this, to really get and do it. And so I didn't have that kind of money sitting around or to do that. So we said, we need to stay where we are and what we are. And today we're the same thing. We're a brick and mortar. We decided, hey, what are we going to do? What is our thing? We're here servicing people. I'm not going to be internet business. I'd have to spend a lot more money today, even though it's easier to get on the internet and sell today, which we do. We have a little bit. We do some of our own products, but it's still a lot to maintain. Right. I got to have dedicated people to that to handle that, and that part's changed. But the internet itself, with online business today, it's kind of unique because I have to compete against every manufacturer there is.
Right.
So how do I differentiate what I do? We've got to be so service oriented. We've got to be high quality in service. Personal experience. Give that service, and that you look at it and says, I'm not low cost. I'm the same price as every manufacturer. That's what people don't realize. Right. Manufacturer sells a shoe for $150. That's my price. You're not going to get it any less expensive somewhere else. So that's the beauty about a manufacturer. We compete against them every day, but prices are held the same. So what differentiates us? We're going to tell you what you need. We're going to show you what you need. You're going to let you try it on, so you don't have to return it 4 times in the mail terms because you got the wrong size, or you don't have to buy 4 sizes and then ship 3 back because you don't know what you need. And we're going to come help you on that. And that's the key today is we still have to differentiate the actual service aspect of what we can provide that you can't get anywhere online. You try to have certain things online where you can build a shoe, you can figure out what you need, and most of the time that comes back, it's not the right stuff.
Right, not exactly right. Well, I was going to say that's an interesting story because not only the internet had a pathway, but your success is not internet. It's still based on that personal service and that experience. But at the same time, look at all the big box stores. I won't mention their names, but they sold a lot of sporting goods. They sold shoes. They're all gone. They're out of business. And those models, which had no service whatsoever, just pick it up, walk out the store kind of thing. It's just sort of an interesting observation. And, you've had to compete against those. But in a way, I think the story that we're hearing is you didn't compete. I'm providing something very different. Yeah, the shoes are the shoes are the shoes, but you're going to get that other experience. So when you look at the town as a whole, because you've been able to observe, you've been down there every day for 35 years. I see you there every day. What are your observations? You've seen successes, you've seen changes. What do you think is working downtown? Are there any ideas you have that we can do different, that town should be doing different? Should we try to attract different kinds of businesses? What are the solutions you think we ought to be looking at?
There's a good part to it and there's a bad part to it. The good part is downtown is, there's a certain inventory of buildings and type of buildings that we have. We don't have real large buildings. Right. So that keeps out those big box stores. They're not coming downtown.
Yeah, not that we're deliberately doing it. It's just natural.
And it also keeps out, let's say, even some big name retailers because they need a larger building. Right. So that helps protect a small business.
Interesting.
In terms of somebody can't come into town because they don't have a big enough building for what they need. An old house might not cut it for their kind of retail. And so the inventory of buildings, there's a big bonus to say, hey, it keeps it small, keeps it local, which we really like, but it can keep away some of the big names that might attract people. Like if we went to downtown Walnut Creek, if we went to San Ramon now to some of the stuff where they've got big manufacturers coming in, retailers coming in that draw more people. Mm-hmm. So the real key is if we can't have all those there, if we have a small amount of them, how do the local people drive people in? So we've got to be so unique in terms of what we do, what our business is. We can't be the run of the mill. We can't be the same thing as somebody else. We have to be different. And that difference of the community of what you sell, you got to be focused. I mean, I can't be those big box stores. They've got everything. They're not real great at all of it though. Right. Or one thing. So we focused over the years. I've come down from triathlon, from bikes and swim, and we don't have swim business anymore. People miss that. But I had to focus, and we got to focus on what we do best. And today, really, we sell shoes. We sell shoes for exercising. And so keeping that focus and then being the best you can be in that, providing the service, the community, and you've got to keep reinventing yourself too. COVID, we had to reinvent ourselves.
Right.
So we pivoted. Long time ago, I remember walking into seeing stores. I says, that store, it's not changing with the times. I said, they need to change. I said, we're changing with the times. We're doing stuff. Well, in 35 years, I kind of got to look at myself in the mirror, and I said, am I becoming that store I used to talk about that's not changing? So even today, we've got big changes that we need to do. We still need to reinvent ourselves in terms of how we do business. If it's our service, how do we keep improving that? How do we add something to it to make it different? Because people today, it's so easy to sit at your desk or sit on your phone and order something and just have it. I don't feel like driving downtown. We've got to create something to make the people want to keep coming downtown. Is it the personal service that we have? Is it how attractive downtown is and there's more things going on? But we have to create those things, and I've got a tough time in front of us to be able to keep on doing that. And how do I got to reinvent us a little bit. And so if we stay the status quo, we could be gone. And so we need to keep evolving.
I think that's the observation that I'm hearing from you, is that in 35 years you really have, and while you said I need to change, you probably said that last week, last month, last year, and you did, and you have over time. But one of the things you mentioned was about getting people downtown. Obviously, the Old Town Danville projects the image. It's nice to walk. People have a tendency that live here. When their relatives are around, they always take them downtown. They want to show off the downtown. But one of the things we've heard from businesses is we want more events downtown. And then we hear from another group of businesses, well, I don't want you to do that. Because some people, when they see an event, they close their store. Others take advantage of it. Or let's say they stay open. What's your thought, and is there something that you see helps your type of business better than other events?
I think any event downtown is going to help. And you have to be willing to be there and be part of it. If somebody's bringing people to town, it's the business across the street's putting on their own event. If that's bringing people to town, hey, you have an opportunity to be seen. They may not buy that day. They may not shop that day. When we do the wine walks and stuff downtown, we just had a sip and stroll. You have people coming through. Did I get any business from people shopping in my store that night? Not really. But did people come by and see you? Potentially, they're going to come back. When you have a street fair, if you have a car show, that may not be the focus of the people to shop for the car show. I mean, they want to be out there, look at cars, maybe have something to eat, something to drink, but they're going to come back if they see you. And the key is we'll always try to do some kind of special event when that car show is going on. I might want to move some product. I might have a sale. People ask me, don't you always have a sale when something's going on downtown? I said, well, we try to. Yeah. But that brings people to town. So if you can capitalize off of what's happening, it may not be that day, but another day they come back. Just with Memorial Day, I was closed. We've always been closed on Memorial Day. I talked to my neighbor. I was open, Marty. I had so much traffic downtown, I can't believe. There's people that brought what you said. They brought their friends. They brought their out-of-town guests downtown. I said, wow, I might need to rethink that the next time. But they had success. And I see that all the time with people coming in. They come in town, they want to show off, they want to show their friends where they live. Yeah. And they like bringing them downtown. And if you've got stores that do stuff, I mean, we sell stuff that says Danville, California, and people love that. They go home with something. But you've got to take advantage of everybody's event. If somebody else is putting on a nice event, that's going to bring more people to town. And if businesses can collaborate on all that I know that the store down the street or the restaurant across the way is going to do a big promotion, maybe I need to get involved and talk to that owner. That would definitely help the whole community, help the business. So businesses need to be aligned on all that. So I'm in favor of the events. Everything that happens downtown, you just have to be able to capitalize on it, right, and know what you're gonna what type of outcome it may not see it that day, but sure enough, down the road, hey, I came to the car show and I saw your guys and I need some shoes.
Yeah, good observation.
Yeah.
That I think that's one of the messages that I think everybody struggles with, and I think you have a clear vision on it, is that don't count that event day as the day that, well, I didn't do a big business that day. You're counting as a day for an opportunity for more business, and the more you can expose your store and what you do to more people, potentially you're going to have more customers. And I think that's a challenge that some people don't see that, and I think it's good to hear. And I think this year there's 26 events downtown, more than we've ever had, and the Chamber of Commerce has kind of pivoted to try to focus on that. And I've seen, just like you've probably seen over the past 35 years, the downtown has had high success. It drops and it kind of goes back and forth, and it's trying to get all of the forces heading the same way. But in that evolution, as you've seen that, what do you predict in the future? What do you think specifically in a historic town like us? What do you think, or what do you recommend is the focus that Danville and we ought to be doing with the downtown?
Very good question. People come and say, Dan, it's changed so much. People walk in the store and say, well, I've been here 35 years. It's changed, but it's very much the same in essence. But the whole key is people think of Danville and they see that downtown, and it all comes back to a focal point in the community. And if we keep a focal point on, if we want to keep improving Danville, it's going to improve at outlying areas everywhere, but that downtown is that focus. And as long as we keep strong, I say we want to promote business, promote things that are happening. Hey, we'll look at this. We need to look at things that we can do. And be open. And I know the town's been really open about that for years, about allowing certain things to happen. I mean, the support you give for the events and stuff that to promote these things, these happenings. We got to keep doing that. I mean, the infrastructure that's in town, is wonderful. I mean, we've got nice walking areas, all those things, and you're not going to have that in every other city. But keeping it a nice walking friendly downtown in the future. We've got parks, we've got things going on. I think we're going in the right direction.
And I appreciate hearing that. And one of the things that we've heard along with that line, we're trying to focus as much as we can. If we're going to do an event, we want to have it downtown. We were using Oak Hill Park as a place we did our concert series, our free concerts, music in the park. Well, we've tested for a couple of years and did improvements in the theater parking area, Front Street parking lots, and on the town green that we can do concerts there. And we see, boy, when you do a concert, restaurant businesses go up before the concert and after. So we have a new building. It's just going to start construction right on Front Street, right next to the town green. Its real purpose is for maker space for artists, but so we can do more art classes, but public restrooms. And then we'll have bigger public restrooms and the bandstand sort of gazebo that we're going to enlarge it so that we can have larger bands and things like that. So we've heard that message, and I think that's hopefully, and I'm glad to hear it from you, Marty, as well, that we want to try to focus on those and just give everybody a reason to come downtown. And one other thing that's coming up, and I'll share it, and we'll get your opinion live. And this has been something personal. I've been trying to get a high-quality, small boutique hotel downtown, a bed and breakfast. And it was tried originally at the Podva House. And that's when the Podva family were moving on, and they were going to sell the house. Opportunity to fix it up, do an expansion, and town lost the opportunity. We got outbid. But now there's a proposal for a small 55-room Napa-style boutique hotel. will have nothing but rooms. So all of the breakfast, lunch, and dinners would be within the community. And they want, their whole plan is to partner with every retail business, every service business in the downtown core. And, we have one hotel fairly full, particularly holidays and things like that. Do you think that would help you and your fellow retailers in the downtown area?
Oh, absolutely. Bringing people, if you can fill a hotel every night, and you could have ties with that. I mean, those people are going to need to go out to breakfast. They're going to need to get lunch. If whatever reason they're in town for, they're going to need dinner. They're going to want to walk around. To bring more people downtown, just like housing downtown, just creates more of a vibe, and that vibe just brings an activity. If you have a crowd going on, it creates more of a crowd.
Hey.
And as I say, if all of a sudden you see all this stuff happening in my store, people kind of wonder what's going on. They come. They want to see what's going on. Right. So the more people you bring, it just creates more people to want to be there. You see an activity happening. You see something going on. What is that? I want to know what that is. I want to be part of that. Right. And so the more you bring, it creates that atmosphere that you want to create, which is inviting. And I think as people, we want to be around all that stuff. To have a hotel downtown or in that proximity, I think would be a boost to the town, a boost to the local businesses. But then you got to tie into that hotel. Oh yeah, that hotel is. Hey, I'm here in town for 3 days. Are there some good walking trails? Some places to go? Well, here's a business right here in town that knows all that. They'll point you to where you need to go hiking, where you need to go running if you want to do that, where you can walk, where those kind of activities are, and you have that synergy with the businesses.
Value-added service.
And then we got to do that with even still today with all of our other like businesses. We just had a person come in the store just the other day and go, "Do you have, I need leather sandals or dress shoes?" Thinking we have those things. Well, no, just walk right across the street. For men, you need that? Just walk across the street. There's Patrick James right there. Mm. If all the businesses are working together like that too,
that's a good point.
It's a nice synergy. And if you have a hotel that's pointing people in the right direction, or if you partner with them, that's what you need to do. And I think as businesses, we all need to keep partner with the town, so we can keep building the community that it is. And it's like my success today might be somebody else's success tomorrow, in terms of when we bring. It's just like when we do our Wednesday night run. I might get 25, I might get 75 people out. And what are they doing afterwards? Hey, can we promote a local restaurant? A lot of these people are heading out to the restaurants, or they're doing something else. Maybe they see something. We have a local chiropractor that came in and talked to the group ahead of time. All of a sudden, we drove 7 patients to that person in the next week. So the more we can keep partnering and keep piggybacking off of each other's successes, I think the town will keep growing and keep doing well.
Well, and that's, I think, we're hopeful. So the hotel will not be on Harts. It needs to be back, tucked away a little bit. There's good, quiet spaces that are really close, very close to you, that would not directly enter or access anything off of Harts, but you can walk through, because we have those wonderful little walkways and alleyways.
There's a lot of those.
One right next to you that ties to the parking lot. So I think that's a hopeful, and they're expecting that has $8 to $12 million a year of disposable income to be spent on restaurants and retail. So we're hoping that is something, and also from a community pride to get a high quality place to stay, to have your friends and family. It seems to have value. So that's another idea. So 2 things: more Danville, downtown centric on concerts, focusing the events, and maybe getting a few of these complementary businesses. We're hopeful that it's going to help. So as you've seen these 35 years of changes, and I go back to just after you opened, Danville probably went through the highest vacancy rate in downtown. 40% vacant on Harts, kind of north of you, going that direction. Rents in some places were 80 cents a square foot. Hard to believe they were that cheap. But we did go through that. And I remember the town started its first real big investment in just fixing sidewalks, doing things like that. And we've done it now since I've been here. We've done it 3 times. And, it'll probably be in a year or two, we'll start figuring out the next one. And I think it goes along with what you're saying, Marty, is that you have to keep thinking about the future. And I know other council members say, well, that's great, we're done, now we can move on. And I said, maybe we have to think about, this is what we've done. You can never always do everything you want because you have, financial limitations. But I think the reality is we have to continue to think about the future. What are the things that will make it even a nicer place to be? Our north end of town still doesn't have the quality and the feeling of the south end. The trees, we finally got trees in there. We were prevented for 25 years of doing anything based on property ownership, complicated easements left over from when it was a state highway, a long list of things. Those are all settled, but it doesn't have that look. So, I guess the question back to you, is that a role that you think the town should continue to play in trying to do that, or is it more left up to what the businesses are going to do?
It needs to be a collaboration. I mean, the town can have its direction and what to do, but we've got to be able to pull in not only the businesses. I don't own my building. How do our property owners? Right. How do our property owners feel about that? Do they want to improve? Do they want to improve their building? Do they want to improve their property, the value on that? And I think when everybody could work together that way, with the landlords, the businesses, and the town, then you get that sense of community of what needs to be developed, or how do you enhance it. But I think still, I'd like to see the town keep continuing to strive to say, how can we keep improving the downtown? What can we bring? What infrastructure can we bring, or activities can we bring to town on that? And then we just got to make sure our property owners and our business owners are in I'd say, in sync with that, because that helps quite a bit. I mean, I've got a very good property owner that's long term. So I've been the only tenant they've had.
That's right.
In 25 years.
Wow.
But we got to have, everybody's got to be invested in that in terms of how's my building look? Do I need to enhance my building? And I know the town's been very good about helping businesses and owners fix up their storefronts,
right,
and to improve the look if that's necessary. But just the actual infrastructure itself and getting around town, moving around town, that's really important. Is it easy to drive downtown? Is it easy to walk downtown?
And park.
and park. And park is the biggest key. Is I have people, I can't find parking. And I said, what do you do when you go to another town where it's all metered and it's parking garages? You park and you walk about 3 blocks. I said, you couldn't park in front of my store today because someone else was.
But right behind us, there's a big parking lot.
There's a huge parking lot, and there's right across the street, and over there is another parking lot, and you only have to walk a block.
Yeah.
And I said, you get a little exercise, but that's fine, but you never have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And having that ease of business, of creating, that parking itself helps business. Having that ease of driving around and walking, and that parking makes it all the better.
And it's safe. That's the thing. I've heard the same thing. And because we are that small town, lots of times, because I walk downtown every morning, and usually in the afternoons, but absolutely every morning. And, in the morning, you can park any place you want, right in front of your store.
Yep.
And you get that old town feeling, I can just drive up in front of Marty's store, jump in, out. But yeah, maybe I have to park a block away. But when it's busy, but the fact is, this is, 40 years ago when I brought my family here, and we were, very young children, it was different. It wasn't that we were unsafe. It was people had a feeling that communities weren't safe as a whole. People didn't walk as much. Now kids ride their bikes to school. They walk to school. Kids walk to school. My neighbors, their elementary school kids feel so good they can walk. It's only 4 blocks of a school. They walk to school. So yes, you can walk from the parking lot 1 block away and feel really safe. What have you seen in the changes of things like that? I mean, do you have a sense that the community feels safer, or is there still sort of that general fear of being out in commercial areas or things like that?
you talk about the parking. I mean, I don't know. What do you feel? I don't know anybody that feels bad about parking their car and their car's going to get broken into.
Right.
That's not happening. I don't even think about it. I mean, my car's left unlocked. I mean, my car's parked right near my store, but it's left unlocked. The windows are open. Everything. I had a customer come in yesterday, and he was riding his bike. He parked his bike out front of the store. He goes, "Hey, can I bring this bike inside the store because I don't want to get stolen?"
Yeah, right.
And I said, that's a pretty big bike, and I don't know if it's really going to fit in here. We don't have enough space for that. But I'll say you can leave it right out there in the front. You can see it. And in 35 years, I've never had a bike stolen in front of my store. And that bike, I've had a $10,000 bike sitting out here in front, and they haven't been taken. And I think we'll be all right.
You used to have a very custom bike retailer above you, I think, for a while. Yeah. But, I'm glad you said that. That's a good point. But it's interesting how we have those stereotype images, and it just sort of takes that reinforcement. The more often you do something, the more comfortable you get with it. So being safe, and that's been a value proposition that we've worked on for years, takes a lot of effort. And, many communities, when I came on the council over 30 years ago, we have the same number of employees, the same number of police, we have the same number of everything. And in most communities, in that same 35-year period, they've doubled their staff. Their revenues went up. Well, ours don't. And they don't because Danville got classified. It's complicated, but post-Prop 13, state said, you're going to be a limited service city. And it was just an excuse that they could take most of our property tax. So most cities get 22 to 25. We get 7. So it makes it harder to do all of those things. And so we have to save. It's like when we do the downtown improvement projects, it takes us 8-9 years to save the money. If you had sort of a magic wand, and this is just brainstorming, and there was one thing that we could do, what do you think, and I mean the town, what could the town do that you think might be sort of that crown jewel that might do one more thing to help make downtown better? What might that be?
It's a very good question, and I think there's a few other retailers who would like this too. I mean, downtown, we've recently done all those new improvements. We've added some street lights and stuff and things like that. I'd like to see some more lights downtown.
Right. So we have holiday lights now because we got the low voltage. So yes, there's an opportunity.
I mean, but even walking downtown, brightening it up most of downtown a little bit more.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I go into some places that are very much like Danville, and they're lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And I think that'd have a little bit more at night, a little bit more flair, and that would really help.
I think it's a great idea, and it's taken a long time. As there's the technical part, but lights used to be 477 volt. Well, you can't put those cool little decorative lights out there. But when we went through, and particularly this last round, it's all LED, so it drops back down the same voltage you have in your house. So the 120 volt, and it's built into all of those lights. So the holiday lights that we started, 2 years ago, we figured out we could add lights. So those are lit up, and now we found out we can add more lights. So I wanted to put it on the podcast. I think everybody ought to hear that. And we just got to get everybody to really say that's a great idea, and then we can start to look at how do we do that now that we have the backbone and the infrastructure to support that.
And that, I mean, regardless of the holidays, having that 365 days a year would be phenomenal.
Yeah. And it goes along with, we've been pushing with restaurants and encouraged and found ways to facilitate to get more outdoor dining. Because one of the things you mentioned earlier struck me that, who wants to go to a store that's empty? But when there's activity, everybody wants to go. Restaurants are even more so that you drive by a restaurant or walk by it and you don't see anything. You're a little, you're saying, must be something wrong, maybe I'm not going in. So, having the outdoor dining, having it lit up, and having patrons, and our weather, is just perfect, generally speaking, that you can do that. So yes, adding the lights on the streets to create that festivity and activate the streets, I think that's a great idea. I think, probably it's going to start on Harts Avenue, and, we got some other side streets we can't forget about.
Right.
But if we could get it all the way from one end of town to the other, and particularly, not forgetting about the North End as well. There's an opportunity there for the future. And I remember one of your friends who's a restaurateur said, I was saying, boy, we've got a lot of restaurants coming in town. Are you worried about it? And he said, absolutely no. He says, the more restaurants and the more success we have, they may go across the street, and when they're full, they're coming to me, or vice versa. So he says, no, I'm not worried about more restaurants. And so I thought that in the restaurant business was an interesting observation. And we probably have tripled over the past, and really since COVID, that was the opportunity because we had to eat outdoors. We've tripled the number of outdoor spaces for dining that we used to have. And now that's the big, how can I get more space? And there isn't enough space. But lighting up, I think, is part of adding to that festivity. So, as I said, we have to save our money.
Right.
And we'll do it and get a consensus. So I appreciate you sharing your opinion of that. We're getting close to just a couple of minutes left here. And maybe ask you what do you see just in high level view of, what Danville is going to look like in the future? What do you predict or want to see in the future? And you've had the opportunity to see what it used to look like. And people don't remember that. And I remember somebody says, oh, Danville's changing so much. And I remind people, I says, well, do you remember when the cement plant was on the Clock Tower parking lot? And all you could see would be the big conveyors and the big dump trucks or cement trucks every day, and go, well, I don't remember that. I says, I do. And I don't want to see that again. So yes, we've made changes and stuff. So in your view and everything that you've seen, what do you predict the future of Danville is going to look like downtown?
I think it's going to keep. I think it's going to keep growing. I think the drive for people in community is going to enhance it to keep building downtown. More people want to be here. The thing about Danville was a long time ago, and you think about this for business. When I wanted to locate here, kept coming back to Danville. But think about where Danville is. It's right in the middle. If you take your freeway and your traffic corridors and stuff, you got to the south of us, we got 580, 680 corridor. People down south, they have all the shopping, all the stuff they need. They have all the hotels. They'll come north. They'll stop in Danville. They're not going to go north. They don't want to get to that 680-24 interchange. Yeah. You go north, they're going to come south. This is what we found for our customer base. They're going to come south. So people want to come here. 680, they're not going past Danville. They're not going, anybody living up in Walnut Creek, they're not going down to Dublin or San Ramon or to Pleasant to shop. They have all those needs where they are north. Danville happens to be right in the middle. People from the north and people from the south will come to Danville, which is a beauty. And that was why we wanted to be downtown a long time ago. So you can draw those people from all those. I'm not just drawing from one small little area. You're pulling people here. And the more we keep enhancing downtown, the more we have new businesses, creative businesses, promoting all those things. You're going to see more people, and more people want to come here. Live here too, if we can, and afford all those things. But for the businesses and so forth, and for the town and the community itself, more and more people are going to want to come here because of that.
I think that's an interesting observation that Danville kind of always was. I remember when I was young in the 1950s, because I am older, we stopped in Danville on our way because our relatives lived in Alamo and Orinda. So we're coming from the Central Valley, and you came down the old highway, which was Harts Avenue, San Ramon Valley Boulevard, Danville Boulevard. It was the place you stopped because it was the midpoint. And that's why the north end of town looked so much different. It was all gas stations. There were nearly a dozen gas stations just in that section, and it's changed. But I think your vision for the future is just that. The restaurants help create that sense of quality, atmosphere, a reason you want to be downtown, and then all the complementary businesses such as yourself, sort of fill in all of those gaps and create a new sense of community. And I think your business, and I'd written down, you have figured out you're a community hub. You're a hub of information. You're a hub for nonprofits. You support Run for Education, Devil Mountain Run, things like that. So you're not just a retailer. You are that hub. You're full service, which, businesses have a tendency to provide that little area. And you found your center of gravity. You went from bike and swimming and focused on one business. And you've been here 35 years. There are very few people can say they've been in business 35 years. And we hope that, your kids and your family will carry that on. So I really want to thank you, Marty, for not only what you do in the community, your role, your leadership, but just your commitment to Danville and helping make it successful. But thank you for joining me today. And for those listening in, thank you for listening in. And thank you for being part of this conversation. And if you enjoyed this episode, I hope you can consider sharing it with a neighbor or friend. Share it with your friends because they can find out the real story. Because in the store, it takes probably multiple visits to find out who's Marty Breen. Maybe people learned a little bit more about who you are today and the great retailer and the great business and community partner you've become.
Well, Newell, thank you very much, and I look forward to being here for years to come, and the store being here for years to come. And so we just got to keep figuring it out.
Great. Well done, Marty. All the best to you.
Thanks.